Hello, welcome to More Yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're doing well and ready for a bit of playful movement. I thought today what we would work on is Ardha Chandrasana or half moon pose, the half moon balance. Some people, when they say half moon, they think of when you're standing and just kind of reaching from one side to the other. What I'm talking of is the single leg balance, where you're sort of open to one side, hips are stacked, back leg is lifted. We're going to play with it and find lots of ways of getting into it. If you have wall space available to you, this can be a really fantastic practice using the wall because it takes a lot less balance, but you get that beautiful opening through your hips. Also, a block, something sturdy to bring underneath your hands, to bring the floor up to you, can make this pose like a million times more accessible. So you might even have a chair nearby or a low chair or a coffee table. You can bring your hand onto that. And I promise you, you will find so much more release in this pose. So that's a lot of things. Get your props if you need them, even like a water bottle. It's not as sturdy, but it does bring the floor up to you. If you want to set up near a wall, go ahead and set up near a wall. If you know Ardha Chandrasana, you're like, whatever, then okay, that's cool. Set up in the middle of the room without any props. That's all right. Okay, and let's start lying down. If you're comfortable there, if you'd prefer to stay seated, then you're welcome to. Depending on how your body feels, you might want to keep the knees bent to release a little bit of tension through the low back, in which case I'd say take the feet a little bit wider than your hips. Let your knees hang in toward each other, and that takes the muscular activation out of it so that you don't have to kind of fight to keep the knees from falling in or out. Maybe you have your legs outstretched. Maybe you take a butterfly pose, right? It doesn't matter. You could be on your side. Doesn't have to be symmetrical. Once you've found a position that will work for you for a few moments, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And continue breathing however feels best for you today, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Notice if you're holding any muscular tension or gripping anywhere. Can you try and let that go too? Follow the path of your breath. Slow and sweet inhale. Slow, sweet exhale. Last couple breaths here. And slowly start to bring a little bit of movement back to your body. Could be a wiggle of the fingertips or toes, or a little rock of your head from side to side. Or maybe a full body morning stretch. And then draw your knees into your chest and take a little rock from side to side. All right, from here, roll all the way to one side. Doesn't matter which side, you might need to shuffle around to find a comfy position. You could rest your head on your arm, or maybe you have a block or a pillow that you could bring underneath your head rather. Or you could also just rest your head on your palm. Bottom knee stays bent to start with. And then draw your top leg up toward you. And just draw some circles here. See, it's a bit wobbly, which is why we've got that bottom leg bent. It just helps with the balance. And then I want you to think of lifting the knee as far up to the sky as you can. This feels good here. From here, you can keep that top knee bent, or maybe you extend it up to the sky. Now your leg could be super far away from you. The knee could be bent. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't have to look like my variation. Some of you I know will have a bind on the toes here. Now you can stay here, or maybe you extend that bottom leg. Probably should have extended the bottom leg first, but here we go. Right. This is essentially your half moon position. The hips are open. It's a bit wobbly, which is like half moon. I want you to flex the toes of that top foot back toward the shin. Right, so it's as if you're pressing the foot into the sky. And you might stay here. You might have a bind. You might be quite far open. Just depends on where you need to be, right? That knee could be bent, but we're just sort of blueprinting this position. Last breath here. Okay, and then slowly release, shake it out. If you felt super wobbly, so did I, so don't worry about it. And then we'll switch sides. You could just roll to one side. I'm going to flip around so that I don't have my back to you. And again, you might start with the bottom knee bent and just take a little bit of movement with that top leg. And then eventually start to open that top knee as open as you can get it to the sky. Maybe you stay here, maybe you extend that bottom leg. See, that was smart. I did it first on this side. I learn, as I teach things. Maybe you stay here holding that knee open. Maybe you start to extend the leg up to the sky. Peel those toes back toward the shin. Maybe you have the bind on the toes. Totally secondary, right? Maybe you play, maybe your leg's further away, maybe it's further up, maybe it's drawn even closer to your head. Last couple breaths here, really just, again, opening through the legs, through the hips, blueprinting this position. And then slowly, gently release, shake it all out. And then let's make our way to hands and knees. Excuse me. And start to move through cat and cow. So as you inhale, lift the tailbone, belly dips toward the floor, broaden through the collarbones. So that's a retraction of the shoulder blades. And then exhale, round in the opposite way. Inhale to dip the belly and exhale to round. So a few more of these undulations on your own time, on your own breath. As always, if there's any other natural movement that would feel really good here, feel free to go wherever you need to go. And then slowly come back to center. Okay, do a little bit of single knee balancing. So if you'd like a little bit more cushioning, bring it underneath that right knee. And then step the left toes behind you. From here, kickstand that right knee or right foot out to the side a little bit. Bring your right hand forward and in towards the middle. And then as you inhale, open up to modified side plank on the left side, or I don't know, opening to the left. We're on the right side, but we're open to the left. Wrap that bottom shoulder onto your back. You could be on your palm, you could be on fingertips, you could be on a block. You might de-weight that top leg. You might take big sweeping shapes. Hey, look at this position. Huh. Hips open, stacked over the bottom leg, top leg lifted. It's like half moon pose, except from hands and knees rather than from the feet. Right? We're taking a bit of instability out of it by adding a second point of contact and taking the ankle and knee stability out of it. One more breath here. Good. Slowly unwind. Come back to center, hands and knees, little wiggle or shake, and then you can switch the padding to the left side if you wish. Kickstand that left foot out a little bit. Bring the left hand forward and in slightly. And then as you inhale, right leg extended, start to open to the right. Wrap that bottom shoulder onto your back. Maybe you stay here with that back leg on the floor. That's fine. Maybe you de-weight it. If so, think of reaching the heel further away as you peel the toes back toward the shin. You could draw big sweeping shapes if you wish. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly, gently unwind. Come back to center. Little wiggle or shake or cat and cow. And then step to the top edge of your mat into your standing forward fold. You might rest your elbows on your knees or thighs or bring your hands to blocks. You could clasp opposite elbows with hands or even interlace your hands behind your head or your back if you wish. Maybe you're still. Maybe you sway a little bit from side to side. And then release your hands with fingertips to your shins. Inhale, a little partway lift. Exhale, let it all go. 2 more. And then bend your knees, head heavy, arms heavy. Slowly start to roll up to standing. 1 vertebra at a time. Till eventually you come all the way up. Little wiggle, noodle, or shake. Okay, bend your knees, bring your hands to hips. Let's just do some gentle hip circles. One direction, and then the other. And then shake it all out. All right, feet hip width apart. A little buoyancy in those knees, belly button to spine. Hands can go wherever. Let's sit into chair pose. So hips down and back. Tailbone to the earth slightly to feel your belly button engaged toward your spine. Now make sure your knees aren't caving in. Send them out toward the baby toe edges of the feet. And then send your weight over to your right foot. Keep chair pose on that right leg. Knee bent, hip back. If you're standing straight, you're not going to get quite as much work here, which is okay. You're still working, just not as much work. Couple taps up and down with that left foot to find your balance. And then extend that left leg forward. Maybe you pick it up in the middle or tap down in between. And then out to the left and center. And then back and center. Back out to the left and center. And then curtsy to the right and center. And then come back to your chair pose. Knees out. Couple breaths here. That right leg is starting to fatigue. So let's go over to the left. Keep chair pose on that left leg. Knee bent, hips back, belly bend to spine. Couple taps up and down with that right foot. And extend the right leg forward. And then back to center. Out to the right. And center. And then back. And center. Back out to the right. And center. Curtsy to the left. And center. And then come back to middle. Knees out, tailbone down. Hips low, heart high. Okay, inhale, stand up, shake it out. Little bit of firing up of those glutes, right? So that we have the stability to find the balance. Okay, from the top edge of the mat, step your left foot back a little bit, not a little bit, like for triangle pose. So not as wide as if for warrior 2, Let's just try heel to heel alignment. Back foot turns slightly in. And the legs are straight, but the knees aren't locked out. So there's a little bit of buoyancy on those knees. Hug the legs toward each other. Squeeze the bum. Belly button to spine. Shoulder blades on the back. Now imagine that someone's got a rope on the top of the hip and they start to pull your hips back as you reach your upper body forward. Now for some of us, you're going to hit a point where you can't fold anymore except at the torso. So scoop that front hip under and back a little bit and then come into your triangle pose. Again, we're using triangle here to blueprint the half moon pose. Imagine if my back leg was off the floor, right? You're essentially in your half moon. Lean the upper back into an imaginary wall behind you. Hug the legs toward each other. And then inhale, come all the way up. Shake it out a little bit. And then step forward. Let's try that on the opposite side. So step the right leg back, sitting up for triangle. Again, try not to lock those knees out. I naturally want to do that, so I really have to fight. Little micro bend in the knees, hug the legs toward each other, squeeze the bum, belly bend to spine, long, tall posture, and then start to shift your hips back, and then the upper body naturally will counterbalance that. Maybe you stay here, hovering it out if you wish, or scoop that front hip back and under. Hand could come to the calf or to block. Some of you might reach the floor. Wrap both shoulders onto your back. Spiral those upper right ribs open to the sky. Lean back into your imaginary wall. I'm hearing a lot of clicks in my body today, so this is what I needed. Last breath here. Inhale, come all the way back up. Little wiggle or shake, and then step to the top edge of the mat. Shake it all out. All right. So that's the shape, right? Triangle. We're going to start to play now with lifting that back leg. So if you have a wall and you know that this is a really tricky balance for you, go sit up next to the wall. One foot out a little bit from the wall, hand to a block or to your chair, and then when you open up, you can use that wall for balance behind you. Otherwise, join me in a floating variation. Weight to your right foot, little buoyancy on that supporting knee. And I want you to just sort of play with teeter-tottering, lifting the back leg as the torso comes forward. Each time that you lift, can you open the hips a little bit more? Right, there's a different way to get into it than we normally do. And then maybe you start to tilt forward even more. If you have a block or a chair or a coffee table, please feel free to use it. And then the more that you're able to stack that top hip open, the easier the balance becomes. Reach that lifted heel further back, arm beams up to the sky. Now the gaze might stay down, right? Single point of focus. Maybe you lift it up. Maybe you play with de-weighting that bottom hand and hovering it out. This is not my good side. Last couple breaths. And then slowly teeter-totter back out of it. Shake it out. If you're using the wall, switch to the opposite side. Otherwise, join me. Weight to that left foot. You want your block forward and even out slightly from the foot. Bend that bottom knee and then open the hips as you start to teeter-totter. Right, this might be your practice today. Just seeing how you can lift the leg and tilt the torso forward. Maybe you start to aim for your half moon. Again, if you have the support, use it. Open the hips up as much as you can to the right. Reach that lifted heel further back. A little micro bend in that supporting knee. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you play with the balance. And then slowly teeter-totter back out of it. Shake out the arms and the legs. A couple little hip circles. We're going to do it once more on each side, but this time with the option of coming into it from triangle pose rather than the teeter-totter from standing. So lots of options for you. Maybe you're using the wall. Maybe you come off the wall this time. Maybe you go back to that same sort of way that we were just doing, half moon, or maybe you start with me from triangle pose. If so, right foot forward, hug the legs toward each other, right? Get everything set up, and then bend into that front knee. Make sure it doesn't cave in. Spot your spot. And then start to spring into your half moon. Whew. Again, this side feels really wobbly for me today, but that's okay. That different days, the balance is better or easier. Also, balancing before noon is wild. Last couple breaths on this side, playing with wherever you need to go. And then slowly step back, shake it out, and then we'll switch sides. So again, if you're using the wall, go ahead and use the wall. If you're trying the teeter-totter version, then go ahead and let's teeter-totter from the left, or set up for triangle pose on that left leg. Send the hips back, reach upper body forward, bend into that front knee. Top hand can come to your hip to start with, but then find your spot for your eyes. Start to shoot forward as you lift that back leg up. Right, every pose is a core pose, so that little draw of belly button to spine. Not so hard that you can't breathe. Maybe you play with taking a hand off. Last couple breaths. And then when you're done. Step out of it. Shake it out. Hands to hips. Whew. Couple hip circles in one direction. And then the other. Little twist. Okay, come on down to hands and knees. Well done. Little wiggle or shake. And then make your way onto your belly. Once you're down, a little wiggle of the hips from side to side. Untuck your toes. Press the tops of the feet into the floor, so much so you feel your kneecaps lift away. Send your tailbone to the back wall, belly button to spine, shoulder blades on your back. Inhale, lift your heart forward and up, baby cobra. Exhale, lower back down. So your options here are to come in and out of baby cobra. Maybe you pause at the top, option to stay here, or reach the arms back along beside you. Palms can face up or down, whatever feels best on your shoulders. Some of you might stay here. Some of you might reach your legs so far back that they de-weight as well. Coming into that one long line of locust. Toes, fingertips are reaching further back. And then exhale, release all the way down. One cheek to the floor. Deep belly breaths to release through the low back. And then roll over to your back. Hug your knees into your chest. Little rock from side to side. And then keeping your knees bent, bring your feet to the floor. From here, cross your right ankle over top of your left thigh. So let's get into a nice hip release. In figure four, you might stay here, or maybe you choose to deepen the stretch by drawing your legs toward you. You could just bring a block underneath that left foot, or you might use a strap behind your left leg, or even interlace your hands behind the left thigh. You could rock a little bit from side to side. You don't even have to use your hands. Maybe you find a place that feels like a really good release. Make sure those top toes, the right toes, are peeled back toward your shin though. A few more breaths here. And then slowly release your legs, shake them out, and let's switch sides. So left ankle crosses over top of the right thigh. Again, this might be where you stay. Maybe start to deepen the stretch, keeping those left toes peeled back toward the shin. You could rock a little bit from side to side. You might choose to pause in stillness. Maybe you interlace your hands on that right leg. Try to keep the tension out of the neck and shoulders, though, here, if you're using your hands as a way to bind the legs. Breath slow and sweet. And then when you're ready, release your legs, shake them out. Let's end with a twist. So draw your knees toward you and then take your right arm out to the side. You might shift your hips right a little bit to start with and exhale, lower the knees to the left. You can do any variation of twist that works for you, whether the knees are stacked, legs crossed, or a single leg twist. Try to go somewhere where you can be at ease here, though, so that you don't have to have the feet hovering in the air. You might bring a block in between your knees or underneath the bottom leg. You might look along the right arm just to finish off the spiral in the neck. Last breath here. And then inhale, return to center, reset your pelvis spine. Maybe take the left arm out to the side. Exhale, lower the knees to the right. Again, as gentle or as deep of a twist as you need. And it never has to be the same variation from one side to the other, even with twists. But try to go somewhere where you can be at ease here, so that you're not fighting against gravity. One more inhale. One sweet exhale. And then slowly inhale, return to center. Draw both knees toward you. Take them wide out toward your shoulders or armpits. You might stay here, getting that lovely groin stretch. If you wish to, you might kick the feet up to the sky for happy baby. You can grab the backs of the legs, somewhere along the ankles or feet if you wish. You might rock a little bit from side to side. If you can, try to send your tailbone towards the bottom edge of your mat rather than up to the sky. It just helps release through the lumbar spine a little bit more. Keeps it in neutral. And if there's anything else you feel like you need before your rest, could be a posture or meditation, feel free to go where you need to go. Otherwise, make your way into your final resting pose. You could be flat on your back, legs bent or straight. In Shavasana, you could rest on your side, or child's pose, or a seated meditation. Maybe if you're at the wall, you just swing your legs up the wall. There's no rush to get there. But once you have found your pose of rest, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then let go of your breath control. Return to your natural breath. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in your neck, face, or jaw. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. And take a moment to thank yourself for coming to your yoga practice today, for giving yourself this time to move and to breathe, for your wonderful body for moving and breathing for you. Stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.